Welcome.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Simsick.
And I'm Krista Williams.
Welcome to the New Paradigm Digital Workshop Series by Almost 30. Congrats. Investing in yourself is a huge deal.
Yeah, and we want you to get the most out of your experience. So we have a few guidelines that we suggest so that you really get the value for your money. One of them is telling all of your roommates, family members, partners, pets that you're going to be investing the next few hours within this workshop. We want you to not be distracted. We want you to not be interrupted. So really make sure that you're creating the container and intention that this is your time. We also want you to be comfortable. We are huge fans of being comfortable in comfortable clothes all day. So nothing should be different for us, but we want you guys to be seated in a blanket with a sweatshirt on, however you're going to feel most comfortable. Have some water next to you, have a journal so you can write down everything that's important that you're going to get from this time. Also, please note that we did do this live, so there's conversations about the chat, the people within the workshop. So those things aren't going to relate to the workshop experience that you're having, but this is minimal, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, and I would say after this workshop too, give yourself time to integrate. Don't rush into anything right away. Give yourself time to really absorb what you heard, what came up for you, maybe journal, and just give yourself time to rest. But we really hope you enjoyed this workshop, and if you do, we have more where that came from. So you can visit shopalmost30.com for more New Paradigm Digital Workshop Series offerings.
Enjoy.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Greetings, sweet earthlings. How is everyone doing? We're so glad you're here. I'm Lindsay, and this is Krista. And if you don't know us, if perhaps you follow Peta and are joining this workshop, we are the hosts of the Almost 30 podcast, and Peta is a dear friend of ours and constant source of inspiration and grounding. And this workshop was one that we really dreamed about for a long time, and especially as the world began to rapidly change in a way that we could actually see and feel. We knew that this conversation was going to be really important in order for us to move forward, to heal, and to step into this new world paradigm. So we're excited that you're here. We would love for you, I know you've already started to talk in the chat, but we would love for you to share where you are joining from, your name, and your intention for joining us today to just learn with Peta Kelly. So go ahead and share. And as you are doing that, we just want to go over a little
Yes,
bit.
and just so we're being vulnerable and honest too. So my intention tonight is just to be activated by Peta. Like you guys said in the chat, I feel like whenever I am talking to her or whenever I'm listening to her, there's just this sense of remembering what's true that I don't get often. So I am really excited to feel energized and inspired after this evening. What's your intention?
My intention is to really untangle some wires I have attached to what I think I should be doing right now and in the future moving forward. And I love Peta so much because she reminds me in everything that she does that there doesn't necessarily have to be a structure in which your own unique creativity fits into. And so I'm just looking forward to working more on that.
Perfect. Love seeing these coming in. And just so you guys know, we are donating a portion of the proceeds to each one of the New Paradigm Workshop series to a few different organizations. So it is our way to give back. It is your way to give back. So huge pat on the back for you for donating during this time. It's going to the ASPCA, so supporting animals all over the country. It's going to Feeding America, which is super relevant during this time to support those that are in need for, during COVID season to have food on the table. And we're also supporting the New Mexico Community Foundation. This is an indigenous peoples that live in New Mexico. So we're supporting them, getting clean water, having access to school supplies, all of the things. So congrats to you, kudos. We are so glad we could be with you in this support of people that need it. So for business items tonight, what I would say is that you guys paid money to be here. So you guys created the container, you set the intention in the chat. Let's just make sure that you have your attention here. So that means your phone is maybe in another room, or it's turned off, or it's away. Don't have it distracting you. You can go 2.5 hours without it. And I would also say to be in a quiet space. So if you have roommates or if you live with anyone, just let them know that this is your time. This is your time to really just tune in and tap in and connect with everyone here. So have that intention. All the questions will go into the Q&A box on your Zoom, which lives, at the bottom of the screen. We will have 40 minutes for Q&A with her at the end. So let's just put all the questions in the chat. Assume that any ones that go in the chat will be forgotten about or not answered. So make sure to put them in that chat so we can answer them at the end. I would say too, to be hydrated, get some water, and then we do have a break. So we will have a break after the session that I do with Peta one-on-one. So you guys will be able to get up, move around, go to the restroom, all of that. Anything else?
I think that's it. If you have any technical difficulties, any like dire questions, you can send them in the chat. We do have some of our team on there, but yeah, use the Q&A for your questions for Peta. But I'm really, really excited for all of you today. If you haven't connected with Peta yet, this is going to be very special. So have your notebooks handy. And before we bring Peta on, we just wanted to ground down in a meditation, a few breaths together. I think it's so special. I see you all joining from all over the world, and yeah, I think it would just be really nice to connect. Sunday night here, but I know it's possibly Monday morning where you are. So if you could just find a comfortable seat wherever you are, and just rolling your shoulders back and down, releasing any tension, and closing your eyes. And just start to notice your breath. You don't have to change it, but just kind of noticing where it's flowing, noticing the sound, noticing any other sounds where you are. Maybe you have kids, or maybe someone's watching TV upstairs, or maybe there's birds outside, but just kind of taking in the sounds around you so that you can ground yourself in this present moment. Breathing into the imperfections in the moment. I guess there's a throat chakra clearing happening live for you. And just breathing deeply into that space in your body that knows. That space in your body that gave you that little tug and said, you should sign up for this workshop with Peta Kelly. Breathing into that space and giving it a bit more life, attention. For me, that feels like my belly. So letting it expand. Maybe for you, it's deeper. Maybe it's your root, that pelvic floor. Can you imagine that it expands toward the earth as you breathe deeply in? And noticing if you're wanting to release on your exhales. So not making your breath sweet and perfect, but if something comes up, whether it's a throat clearing or a cough, or if you want to sigh, or maybe you want to give a little sound to your exhales, you can do that now. Part of what I love about connecting with all of you virtually all over the world is just this sense that we are not alone, and that what we might be working through, someone else out there might be working through a similar feeling. And so if you can use your breath now to extend beyond your physical body and send a signal of sorts to everyone on this call right now. A breath of knowing and of oneness and of truth. And honoring the power in connecting at this time on Earth. There's a lot going on. Honoring that what you've been experiencing is not just yours, but is of the collective, is of your ancestors, could be other dimensions. There's just a lot going on, and you're doing great. Take a deep breath into your heart space, just expanding the surface area, and then exhaling out. Moving any energy that's not needed in your headspace down to your heart, just kind of letting it melt all over that new breathed upon surface area. One more deep breath into your heart space. And a big exhale. And before you open your eyes, just to yourself, checking in, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? Gently start to wiggle your fingers and your toes, staying in your body and breathing from your heart space. You can open your eyes. Thanks, everyone. All right, we are primed and ready for
Do a little
beautiful
stretch.
Peta. Yeah, make sure that as we have these conversations, you physically do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there are downloads and just kind of healings within these conversations, and whether it's a deep breath and an exhale or a sigh, like just let her rip.
Let her rip. Okay. So bringing on Peta Kelly, let me just say that she is my North Star. She is the person that I look to for inspiration and insight, and just an overall sense of truth, in the world. I think that I see spirituality and I see so much of the conversation sometimes misguided. And I really believe that Peta brings it back to truth, which is joy, which is honesty, which is integrity. So this conversation is super special. She doesn't do a lot of workshops. She doesn't say yes to many things. So whenever she says yes to us, whether it's on tour or on the pod, we definitely take it very seriously. And with joy. So this is going to be such an inspiring conversation. Have a notebook, have a journal. We will start with a conversation with the three of us. And just know that Peta has, her book, Earth is Hiring, that she wrote when she was on her first podcast. And now she has her new book, which is You're Missing the Point. Stop missing the point. And that is also available on her shop now. So she self-published,
So good.
did all the things. So those are available for you guys to pick up after this. Should we bring her on?
Let's do it.
Welcome.
There she
Hey.
is.
Hello,
Hello, sister. How are you feeling?
I'm good. It's a morning here. It's early.
Thank you for
I'm a
joining.
bit tired, but I think that's a good thing when you do these things, because when you're tired, you'll come, and less all over the place, which I am a lot when I speak. But yeah, I've been up a lot during the night with Paxi Poo. He's growing. He's a beast. And I sleep between Pax and Sol. So it's just funny. I get up in the morning, like, all right, let's rock and roll. Oh, well.
Yeah, you're like, I don't know the difference between morning and night, really.
Pardon?
You're like, I don't know the difference between morning and night. Really.
It's just funny. And this time is so temporary anyway, so I just go with it. But if I hear a knock on the door, my Sol, who's almost 3, she just come charging in. I'll turn the video off because I don't put their faces all up. So if my video goes up suddenly and you hear a little person, that's what's happened.
I love that your choice to not have their faces. Yeah. I respect that beyond a level that's unimaginable. But so for today, for our workshop, talking about success in the new paradigm, I think that when everything went down with quarantine and COVID, this conversation became even more relevant and pertinent than before. So I just want to ground everyone in understanding what that is. So when we're talking about the new paradigm, what exactly is that from your perspective?
So in Earth is Hiring, when I talk about the new way, it's essentially another way of saying the new paradigm. It's a new operating system for the collective, but we also have our own individual new operating systems and how we're going to operate in the new way. It's us evolved and us living in, I don't like to use like spiritual jargon too much, but it's us living in higher frequencies, and it's us evolving on from our collective lessons of now and also our individual lessons of now. And you'll hear all sorts of terminology for it, like you might hear new paradigm. I've always said the new way. You might hear people say 3D, 4D, 5D. You might hear people talk about heaven on earth, but you just have to take what feels most true for you, because again, a lot of the times these words are being thrown around excitedly, but it's far reaching. It's like when people start business and they're told you can make $1 million in a year, and they all they want is an extra 1,000 a week or whatever. It's like sometimes it's too far reaching to go for the bigger, for words that don't feel right. So leave any of the words that don't feel right. And I also think that it's important to understand that the new paradigm doesn't necessarily equate to heaven on earth. The new paradigm is like like on the way. You know what I mean? It's a better, more effective, more nourishing way for more people is the best way that I like to explain it. We've been in quite a dense energy world for some time, and we're moving on out of it, and people are opening their eyes to things that have been uncomfortable to see and know, but most importantly, we are raising our frequency and living more from a heart space, and that changes everything. It changes absolutely everything, and that's why it always begins energetically. Like the new paradigm isn't like it's this set of rules that's waiting there saying, okay, we're here. It's we change, and it changes all of the rules, and it changes all of the criteria, and it changes all of the entire operating system. So that's what's meant by new paradigm. And there's so much to it, but essentially it's just our next, if you think about Crash Bandicoot or anything like that, it's like that. It's like we're going from this to this, but it's quite a huge, it's quite a big time right now. I wouldn't say like we're just going one level up in Crash Bandicoot. I'd say we're going a few.
How do you think the corona or COVID or quarantine has impacted that timeline? How much of the new paradigm have we been able to touch and reach because of what has went down in the past couple months?
I think it's been all like perfectly orchestrated. And the thing is that there's multiple ways to look at that. It's like we were always destined to evolve at some point. Something had to happen. And this was it may have had, this whole corona thing may have had one intention. However, it has very much been maybe flipped around to be for the greater good, I believe. And there's still so much shit happening it's having such a big side effect still in so many ways, in so many bad ways. You know, obviously people are dying, people's businesses are being shut down. That doesn't deny the fact that there's very real, you know, hard shit happening. However, we had to be here in this reality in order for people to see differently. And I think that a lot of the time, everybody has their own journey. There's been a lot of people for a long time who've been embodying this new way, who've been doing work that's quite like ahead of now.
Yeah.
And have felt really misplaced, misunderstood. They've been called names. I was reading yesterday that these people are always condemned while they're alive, and then they die, and people are like, oh my God, shit, like they knew, you know, like, and it's like Vincent van Gogh, like you painted, and no one bought his art while he was alive. He died with no money, and now he's one of the most famous painters of all time. So I think, and I read a quote yesterday somewhere that was like, to all the people who've been like, this has been their work for years or decades, like we're here now, you know. And it's the thing I always say, like, to go up, we need to wake up first. And I think that's why this has been one of those things where no one in the world's really being able to bypass it, no matter what your beliefs about this corona, no matter what your experience of it, no matter your economic situation, no matter what, everyone's experiencing it in different degrees and different intensities. Obviously, some people lost their jobs, some haven't. Some people have really loved this time, some haven't. Regardless of where you sit on that scale, or regardless of how this has impacted you, there's no one walking around being like, what is that? And so everybody's sort of been forced to take a look at what's going on in the world, and to take a look at, it's like a whole team huddle, right? Regardless of whether we believe we're on the same team, it's like a team huddle, everyone having to be like, okay, let's take a look, like what's really going on here? And of course there's some people who are not taking a real look. And I say all of this with no judgment. This is just fact. There's a lot of people who aren't taking a real look. And there's a lot of people who, for the first time in their lives, have taken a real look. And there's also people who are like, as soon as it happened, this is go time. This is game time. Like, we know why this is happening. So I think that this has been absolutely essential for this evolution. And we know that because otherwise it wouldn't have happened. And I think as much as it's been done in a way that's impacted a lot of lives in a shit way, if we look in terms of what it's going to do over the next 10, 20 years, again, if you look at it just from a black and white perspective, you can say, yeah, but it's going to take our economy so long to catch up, and that isn't the eyes that I see it with. I see it's changing the entire economy. It's changing the whole financial system. It's changing the way, it's changing the structures of which everything's been built. It's not just as black and white as, oh, this has happened and now there's so much debt. No, because the way where we're going, there's not going to be a conversation of debt and all of that sort of stuff. So it's not just a shit situation that we have to now get out of. It's a situation that's, whether we know it or not, changed the entire fabric of our collective, and everything's going to have to be done differently from here on in. And it's my belief, and I can only speak from my belief, that although it sucks in a lot of ways right now, we had to get here, so people were forced to pay attention, being forced to take back their power, being forced to learn to critically think and to critically feel, like to trust themselves again, and what we believe is true, not just what's being fed. And I think it's had to get to a point where it's so ridiculous, like literally what's on the news. Like, I watch the news sometimes purely for entertainment. And it's funny because like the longest standing top news reporter where I live lives on my street, and we pass her every day, and she's an absolute legend. But, you know, people need to take responsibility. That's the most important thing. Evolution doesn't just, like your awakening or your evolution, it doesn't just come, like, if you don't take responsibility for taking a look, like really taking a look and paying attention, life will evolve you in its own way.
Mm.
And I much prefer to be like I've always been like that since I was born. Like literally, my family always teases me like, you literally always look like you left the stove on all the time. Because I'm like, I like look a little bit too much. But yeah, it's people have to start paying attention and stop believing everything that's been said. Stop digesting everything. Stop running according to a default agenda that's not their own. And it's time now where it's not like, is it at the point now where it's so ridiculous? Like and it's getting so ridiculous and so obvious, like the corruption and the orchestration. And it's getting like, when you're really paying attention, it's getting so absurd that it has to get there so that more people who really need, like the people who aren't going to generally just research things, this is like smacking more, do you know what I mean? It has to be able to reach the people who were never, ever, ever going to wake up without something that was just like slap them around the face. And that's on multiple levels. It's not just from the level of true independence and responsibility, where it's like, so the government says this, the news says this, but what do I say? What do I believe? What do I want? What do I feel? What do I want to learn beyond what's just been handed to me? But also in other ways that people have lost their job. They're being forced into well, what do you really want to do with your life? So there's gifts and awakenings on so many different levels. It's not even funny. There's awakenings within the home. People are like, I do love my husband, I don't. Or I do want this, or I don't. It's forcing us into a place where our lights have to come on in multiple different ways. And we weren't, if something like this didn't happen like a bang, we would have got there. Of course we would have got there, but it would have been just a lot slower.
Yeah. When it comes to, people feeling like the old way of their life, whether it's their career, their relationships, even just their relationship to themselves is dying, there is a lot of pain there. I guess I want to really dig into that new idea of like, okay, so what could that success look like? What could your purpose look like in this new way? Because it's really hard. And I think that's a key word too. People love to make things really hard in order to deserve them, enjoy them eventually, right? Like there has to be that suffering in order to get what you want in life. And so I'd love to just talk about, from your perspective, like what that looks like and how we can really like sink into the saddle of actually like enjoying the process and being lit up rather than like dragged down by the processes that we set up for ourselves.
Yeah. So I think that there's just like so many different layers. I'm just trying to feel which one's the best one to speak from. But so in Earth is Hiring, I spoke about how like the alignment and unkinking your hose, and how basically so many of our hoses are kinked, which is our life force, because we're doing things we don't really want to do, and we're staying in commitments that don't serve us anymore, and we're just living a life of mega obligation and everything according to everyone else's wants and desires and the bigger agenda and default that's been put on us. And it suffocates us. And then people wonder why they're tired and experiencing this, all these different physical, mental, all these different things. But I also spoke in Earth is Hiring about success being round and not triangular. And this triangular form of success that a lot of people think is success is that there's a top and there's a bottom, and you're climbing up. I hate when people say, you got to the top, you're going to get to the top. He's one of the top. And I'm like, no, but there's no top. There's no top. Like you're not like, and this is in the personal development industry, you see it too, like people, they've got 2 million followers. So what? They regurgitate information. Like they've got no substance. Like just being brutally honest, and they buy their own books. Does that put them at the top of this like personal development hierarchy or thing? Like it's such a bullshit construct of success, and it's damaging people's, when people buy into that, again, you have to take responsibility. People aren't putting it on you, but when you buy into that model of success, that someone's ahead or above you, or that you've got to go up, 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 up and follow all these things that don't feel good to get somewhere that won't feel good. When you buy into that, it's it's not purpose. It's chasing a tail that's not our own. And sometimes it's chasing our ego tail. Sometimes it's chasing someone else's tail. Sometimes it's chasing the tail of trauma or dogma or anything like that. And this is, again, it all comes back to exactly the same thing. And it's so simple that people just, it's so simple, it's too simple. It all comes back to our own soul and however we hear that. So in Stop Missing the Point, I talk more about, and at the time it kind of led there, it was like how, what feels good is such an important part of our purpose. However, we have been taught and trained to think that unless something is an absolute struggle for X amount of years, it's not worth it. And you hear quotes like nothing, what's that quote like?
Yeah, like nothing that's good is ever worth it, or nothing that's
nothing's that worth it ever comes easy.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it. That idea. I don't believe that story. I don't like it, and I don't buy into that.
Yeah.
Even though I'm someone who will work hard on anything that I decide to work hard on, anything that I love, anything that I want to do. It's not about being a lazy. It's about realizing that it's okay to feel good in what you're doing. And more importantly, what I believe is it's actually the biggest clue to follow those feelings of what feels good and exciting and relieving. And I always make my life decisions when I feel relief or excitement. They're like my two spiritual guides, my emotions, those two emotions, relief and excitement. And the other one is that feeling of just like off. And I don't have any other word for it, off. And so when we are trying to find our purpose, a lot of the time we're trying to make it make sense. This doesn't make sense to my career before. This doesn't make sense to who I am as a person. This doesn't make a sense to what I've been taught. This doesn't make sense because it would be too easy if I did it like that. And so we have all these cock blockers thrown on there about why we can't do something that we actually really want to do. Because it won't work. There's always a story between us. There's always a story between us and what we most want to do, us and what we most want to have. There's always a story, whether it's a money story, whether it's dogma, whether it's a story we tell about ourselves, we tell about who we are. I can't do that. Someone like me could never do that. It's always a story or a belief or, between us and that. And, we're at the point now, and I talk about it a lot in Stop Missing the Point, where it's like we love to learn from hard shit, but we can also learn from easy, fun shit. Mm-hmm. And I think now more than ever with this reset and where I believe we're going, like I have a personal understanding with myself that the things for me that are the most worth doing are the ones that are so exciting. And there's so many things that are exciting me right now that make no sense to anything I've ever done in my career. No sense. But it doesn't need to make sense for it to be on purpose for me, because purpose for me is not what I'm making. It's the feeling I have while I'm making it. I want to feel fulfilled and like aligned and lit up and that feeling where you just know it's not something you're doing because of this mathematical equation you conjured up about why you should be doing this or why you should be doing that or why it makes more sense to follow that path or why it makes more sense to follow this path. And I think back to 2011 when I deferred my PhD, everyone around, there was no young people talking about doing things differently to the 9-to-5 path. No one was. Everybody was, what degree are you going to do? And what mortgage you're going to get. And it was the same story over and over and over and over again. And there was just something in my body. I couldn't articulate it. I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that story. And here's me 6 years into university, 2 degrees, started a PhD thesis. So I was very much on board that as well, until my body was telling me, no, like this isn't for you. Yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, it's who you think you are, but it's not. And I couldn't make sense of it in my head, but in my body, I was like, I just can't do this another day. And I look back, then I left and I went exploring the world and I started to find my first business, Isogenics, which is the most nourishing business, which has been like the the most fertile place for me to grow in every way and to be able to explore all of my other purposes, literally. But if I had held on to that story about what life was meant to be like for someone like me, I don't know where I would be right now, or if I'd feel, you know, as free to do all of the things that I want to do. And so it's just, again, there's all these stories about that we can buy into, but it's at the end of the day, it's up to us about, you can't blame other people for putting something on us, our parents for saying something else, the agenda. We just can't blame anything out of ourselves. What story am I buying into? What story am I telling? How much am I paying attention to what I really want to do? And how am I excavating all the bullshit between me and that? And sometimes it's stories, sometimes it's healing. There's so much there. But we're at a point now where, you know, it's not just about unkinking your hose. It's about changing the whole rules of your life and changing the entire story of how it's always gone for you and how it's going to go for someone like you. And if you ask yourself, what is it that I really want to be doing in my life? Like if I could make a career out of absolutely anything, what would that be? And that's your answer. And it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that. Knowing what you want to do, again, and it's not for life. Like my husband is like a one thing guy. He has one thing that he wants to do, right? But I'm not. I have multiple things, and that's what I need. I need to be able to do whatever I want anytime, start it, stop it, start it, stop it. And my like vision, like I feel like my vision for the world, which is all about the new way, has come through me in multiple different companies and businesses. First, it was my Isagenix team. Then it was Genius. Then it was the Earth S Code. And now it's going to be something else. And I need to be on the move like that. And so my rules are like, my purpose is just that I'm creating in alignment with like myself and what excites me and what I believe about the world. But the form of that just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Sometimes it's not even creating for other people. Sometimes just in my home with my kids. And if no one even sees for a year, that's fine too. And so we need to change the rules, firstly, before we can go there. Because the trick is not in knowing what's the most exciting, fulfilling way forward. That's not the trick. I feel that we all have a pretty good gauge sometimes. And if we don't have a gauge, then it's just time to get curious and explore. The trick is, what's all the things, stories, dogma, between me and allowing it to be that good, allowing it to feel that good, allowing myself to have what I actually want, not what it makes sense to want, allowing myself to go the easier, funner path, not the harder path that earns me the least money. You know what I mean? Like we have to stop blame. Like, and again, there's just so much to this because the system has also been set up in a way where most people, they're so plugged into this system where it's designed to keep people in jobs that suck and rah. But we're at a point now where everybody has to take responsibility for unplugging from that. It's not, there's no more, from this time forward, there can't be any more finger pointing. We have to become responsible now and responsible for our whole experience and the stories we're telling, and to realize that we can create anything so long as we really want it.
Yeah, and there's such a domino effect when you start to wake up. You know, you look at the way you were raised, you look at the food you eat, you look at the schools you went to, you look at the jobs you had, you looked at the relationships you subscribed to, you look at the TV you watch, you look at the media you consume, you look at the way you interact, and it can be overwhelming at times to really dig in and kind of unravel all your stories. So what would you suggest for people as like a first step to their waking up to their stories?
Say that again. I can't read, girls. I can't read the chat. I have to read the questions at the end because it distracts me so much.
You can exit out of your.
Yeah. I'll leave the chat off and I'll just answer the questions at the end.
Okay. Don't look at your chat. What would you suggest for them if they aren't aware of the stories that are currently leading their life in the way that they don't enjoy the outcome, what would you suggest for their first steps to sort of unravel the stories of their life?
You can just start by literally speaking them out loud. It's funny because I mean, I put lots of story prompts and stuff in my book, so I'll try and think of some of them. But like, money is what it means to be me is. Like, I mean, just think of anything that can get the story out of you about what it means, like what it means to be you. What are you? Who are you? Write that. And then you're going to start to get a clear picture of your identity. And then you can go, what does it mean to be me? So it's like, I am a super conscious, caring, hippie, whatever you're going to write about yourself. What does it mean to be that? And then you're going to start to unravel this story. That means that I can't have nice things. It has to be hard. I need to be seen struggling to be a good person. And you start to unravel all these rules that you've created about what it means to be you. And then you can go into all the different areas, particularly which area it is that's troubling you. So if it's money, that's such an easy one to explore, because you say, what does money mean? What does money do? What's my story with money? How does money work in my life? How's it always worked in my life? How does it work in my parents' life? How does it work in everyone around me's life? What do I believe about money? What do I believe when I see people with money? What do I believe when I see people without money? Do I have an automatic correlation that if you have money, you are less of a good person than if you don't? And so you start to see where your beliefs and stories are popping up. And then you get to choose which ones you want. Because again, it's the story that's like money, like everything. Money isn't a currency or a resource or an energy first. It's a story first. That's what money is. It's a story. And so, I mean, again, like if you're talking about writing a love letter to money, to dissolve the charge that you have with it. And people find a lot of ahas in that, because they realize that they've just been, do we want to talk about money? I don't know. I'm going to want to go off on money if we don't want to go off on money.
Oh, I love money. I love your talks on money. The wealth thing was something I definitely want to talk about. So let's go into money.
Okay. So when I get people to write a love letter to money, a lot of the times they've had a big like, whoa, firstly they're like, why would I write a love letter to money? Like, money is, and then they'll list all the things that they hate about money, and forgetting that money's not judging anyone. Money is doing what you're telling it to do, and what you're genuinely telling it to do with your stories and with your energy and with your instruction to it. Which again, the stories come from like your deep-seated beliefs. They become a story that you're telling in your head, and not in your head, but in your body as well, and we've all been there. I had to rewrite my money story hugely. I grew up a single mum, 4 children. My bedroom was a garage, growing up. My mum slept on the lounge. We had no hot water. I can go on and on and on, to all the ways we didn't have money, to all the ways, to all the different stories I had to decide were not mine, so that I could create something more alignment with what my soul was here to experience this time. Not what my mum's was, even though I love her so much. Not what my brother and sisters was. Not what the people around me was. What's my soul here to experience in this time round? What was my soul here to have? And my soul, Jenna Zoe told me, it's my last life.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous.
So and I already sort of expected that. I feel, so I'm like, I'm not here to fuck around and borrow other people's soul's purpose. I'm here to live mine. And even if it looks so different and so outrageous and so different, and even if everyone else tells a story about what I'm here to do, it's not my story. It's not my story. I'm not here to live in a way that pleases what other people think about me. And this is the posture that we need to have. And I have this posture because I do really believe that I'm on my last life on earth. Unless something happens and I get a call, I need to come back in another time, but I don't feel that happening. Anyway, let's not go there. But I'm so protective of my right to live my soul's unique, like have my unique soul experience in this life. And to be that I am so fucking unwilling to to borrow other people's stories about how it should go for the world and to let them put it on me, because we all did at the start of our lives. But no, and you have to just be so intolerant. You have to just like love and respect yourself to the point. And I know that sounds easier said than done, but it comes to a point where you just have to like draw a line in the sand and being like, that's not my story, and I'm not taking that story on. Because again, look at this world right now. Like, if this hasn't given us a taste of like fatality and like a taste of death, and given a little rocket up our ass to be like, what am I doing? Like, really, what am I doing? Like, who am I here to impress? What am I doing? And who for? And at what point do I truly put myself first? And even as a mum of two little kids, one's 5 months and one's almost 3, like, it's so important in my household that they see that mum has a soul too, and that mum is on a spirit. Mum is here to enjoy your life too. And although most of my energy goes on my children, absolutely, I'll still have the conversation. Mum needs to do this, and I'll explain it very clearly that, you know, that I want them to see in me that my soul doesn't get parked because I'm in a particular season in my life. And I want them to see that. And the only way that I can get them to prioritize themselves unabashedly and without apology is if I do it now. And I'm really starting to experience that. Like, this, again, some of this is still, I'm still growing through a lot of this stuff. This isn't fully like, I'm like, got it nailed, you know, like there's so many things in my life where I look and I'm like, shit, like, that's not me anymore. And so I'm still picking it up everywhere in my life. And having 2 kids is my urgency in that arena, to be like, what story do I want to tell about how good life can be? Like, where am I living according to what it makes sense to live? Where am I living according to what other people think it makes sense to live? And everyone who knows me always says, your life doesn't make any sense. Like, where are you going to be next year? And I say, I have no idea. And I don't need to have any idea. It's not, I will go where I'm called. That's how I want to live. That's how I set myself up to live. That's what I believe. That's how I'm here to live, you know, and you've got to know that for yourself. Mm-hmm. And having kids makes it so urgent for me, because there is nothing I value more than freedom. Nothing. Like, freedom and integrity are my 2 highest values. And when I look at, and they're the same thing, like, for me to be in my full freedom, I'm in my full integrity, but with myself, not in integrity with all these other dogma and all this stuff. Like, I'm not in integrity to who I said I was last week. No, I'm not. I could be completely different today and completely new. I mean, I got my hair done last Wednesday. I'm a totally different person now, you know? And I'm just evolve as quickly and often as I need to be in integrity with myself and to be free, and not to feel like I owe like an explanation to so many different prior versions of me, you know. And it's just, even in marriage, you know, like, we have an understanding like that our soul, and I put it in our vows, that our soul, we are married to our souls, our own souls first. And I want our children to grow up with that sense of posture and that sense of self-respect and that sense of protecting their sense of integrity in the relationship with themselves above anything. And that's what gives them their freedom, because at the end of the day, they know that if they are being true, like, and again, we hear this all the time, but if they are really being true and saying what's true and doing what's true and following the calls that are true, then they are always in integrity with the whole. And there's going to be other people who always say that you can't say that, you can't do that, that's crazy how you live, you know, but it just doesn't matter. That's not what freedom is. Freedom is finding that integrity and living it. And a lot of it does come down to these stories. And I'm like constantly on story patrol. I'm like, what? And sometimes I hear myself say things to Soul, like for instance, last night I made her pasta and she was scrunching the sauce in her hands. And I heard myself say to her, so the food's for eating, it's not for playing with. And then I caught myself and I was like, no, fuck that. Like, if she wants to play with her food, she's almost 3, she's learning about texture. Is it really that bad? Like, I'm really mindful of where these little old stories or, you know, things can creep in and slowly but surely chip at their sense of freedom, you know? And
Yes.
so I'm just really like, sure, I don't want her to grow up and be doing it at a restaurant, but she's going to grow up and learn that herself. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, so parenting gives you a really good idea at of this stuff, like the stories that we tell and the stories that we project. And I'm really catching myself, like, where I will tell her something where it's convenient for me to say it, like, we've got to do this, but it's actually not in her best interest, because what I want for her is to explore it and learn it herself. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
From a non-parent to a parent, it makes sense enough for me, but I totally get it. Yeah.
Like I don't want to give her the rules. Like, there are rules when you're a parent. There's a lot of discipline and there's a lot of boundaries. And I feel Eric and I are really good at that. But we're careful to not overdo it, because I don't want her to think that my life rules have to become hers, because that's what's happened with us and our parents. And their parents is we've taken on their life rules. And I always tell her, like, so sometimes mummy's not right. Sometimes you're right. And you don't, like, you listen to me when you're little because I'm like keeping you safe. But there's sometimes when you will know better. So even things when she wants to get dressed and it's freezing outside and I'm telling her, we've got to put a jumper on. Now I'm at the point where it's like, okay, wear what you want and you go outside and learn this jumper on, because I don't want to just constantly be imposing rules and my stories on her. Because even though I feel like I've got quite liberated stories, I don't want to be in the habit of her thinking that my rules of how the world goes have to be hers. And so I model, because who's to say that, who's to say they are? And so it's funny because she's little and I'm obviously her guardian and we're taking care of her. I'm with her all day long, all night, So there are rules and things that we put in place for our family, but I'm just so mindful all the time to protect her freedom in that way. And we've got to be like that for ourselves too. Like, we've got to care for ourselves and our freedom and our sovereignty and our expression as we care for our children's.
Yeah, and it almost seems like what I'm seeing now a little bit with everything that's going on is like this fear of freedom. Like, even though it's like something that we tout that we want freedom. But when it comes down to it, like speaking about freedom in the way that you are speaking to it, people are afraid. It's like, it's terrifying to kind of see what your soul would actually want to do. Did you ever have a moment where you were afraid?
Yeah. I mean, when I left my PhD, I was afraid because I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no plan. There was no business people in my family. Like, my mum was a single mom of 4 who raised 4 children and never had any money, and was the most loving woman ever. And I love her, but there wasn't any you know what I mean? There wasn't there was a business or something that I was following. My dad worked in human resources in the mines here. And so when I left, I wasn't following any, I was literally going into the unknown. Like, I was leaving my PhD, this person I've always been, the dreams I always had, the identity the person I always said I was, this scientist, this researcher, this was my plan, this was my path. And I left all of it to do what? I didn't know. I just knew that if I didn't give myself the space to find it out, that I would never know. And I would make myself really sick because I was starting to feel really tired and really anxious and all the things that you should be feeling in your early 20s, unless, but so many people are, you know what I mean? So many people are. That's a clue that we are not plugged into our life force. And I wasn't. So I went exploring. And so that was scary. And, there's over time, it just starts to become like my hobby. I love changing my mind. It's my favorite thing to do. But in terms of my soul, I'm in it right now. I don't know what my next thing is. And I'm not scared of it, but I'm really curious about it. And I think that if people are at the point where it's the first time they've left an idea to pursue their soul, that's probably where it's scary. Whereas I think I've done it enough times, it's not scary right now, but it has been scary a lot of times. So that's the thing, is a lot of people are in like their 30s and 40s, and they haven't started exploring their soul yet. And that first time that you really do, the fear is not in your soul. The fear is in not being who you always thought you were, and not, the fear is in upsetting people, disappointing people. The fear is in all the other things. What's this person going to think? What's this person going to say? It's like when people know they need to leave a relationship, they know they need to, but they love that person so much, and they know that they're neglecting their soul by staying. But the fear of hurting that person is bigger than the fear of neglecting their soul. And it's the same that comes in all, there's in all different ways of our life, is there just comes a point where we just can't neglect our soul anymore. And our fear of neglecting our soul and our inability to neglect it will become bigger than all the other fears. And at what rate that goes for each people, I can't say, but it's just, I get it. I so get it, and, there's been times personally in my life where I've rubbed up against that too. A lot, where it's been like, no, I know I need to do this, and it happens in microdoses where people will ask you to do something and you'll be like, you'll say yes because the fear of disappointing them is greater than the fear of neglecting your own soul. But my greatest fear at this point in my life is like missing the point. That's the greatest fear I have in my life, is getting to the end of it and having missed the point. So although I do still have times where I say, and I'm in this particular period of my life now where I am going back and being like, what arrangements or things did I make from a place where it was from a place of wanting to make sure that person was okay, right, where I did neglect my soul. Because and again, it's not, it sounds like it's like a selfish way to live, but it's not, because when you are living according to your soul, you're living according to the whole. Everything is whole. And so we think that by being noble and doing these things that are more noble, but we're neglecting our soul, and that's the right thing to do. And it's not. It's not. It's when we're living according to what we really know and want for ourselves, we are in complete alignment with Mother Nature. We're in complete alignment with the whole. And that's what we're here to do. But the thing is that we've been taught and trained that if we're not, that we should be living according to obligation, and we should be living according to all these things that, these heavy feelings, because it's the right thing to do and it makes us a good person, and that whole idea of good person, bad person, as we move into the new paradigm, like these dualities that we've so known, positive, negative, good, bad, right, wrong, these dualities, they're slowly going to start to dissolve, and it's going to be purely about choice.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, martyrdom, and like where in society and where in historic texts and historic stories that we've seen martyrdom become the prominent belief that is good and that defines good. If you think about Jesus Christ, he's the ultimate martyr, and he was the ultimate savior because of the martyrdom. So there is something to that. And I do feel like women struggle with that a little bit more than women, of being the martyrs. How do you see that story play out in your life, especially as being a mom?
Yeah. And I'm still, it's so funny because I still catch myself so much, particularly with my immediate family, trying to always make sure, my immediate family who are great and they're amazing. Again, this is my responsibility. Trying to always make sure, like I catch myself just with multiple people, trying to make sure that they're always all right with what I'm saying, and that other people are always okay with my truth. And, it plays out in so many different ways to mine. The way that the way it plays out for me, and even though I'm getting a lot better, is like, I don't relax, like properly relax. Like I live such a beautiful life where I've just structured the exact way I want. I can pop off and create. I can have someone watch my 2 kids, so I can like literally design my life around my design. around my human design. And like financially, everything is designed around my human design. But still in that, there's like this lineage stuff, which there's, at some level, I find it hard to relax. And at some level, it's because I'm genuinely a super excitable, creative person. And I'm super open here. And sometimes I take on too many things and find it hard to like close off this region. But at some level also, there's something deep. And even though I've done work on it, I'm still working on it. I do so much work, but that's like, there's something deep down, there's still like an inability to properly relax. And so even if I'm having some relaxed time and I'm not working, I'm baking, I'm doing Pilates, something like that. And I think that I'm at the point where I'm learning it's my nervous system. Yeah. And it's not just my nervous system in this lifetime, but it's my nervous system inherited from my mum, who's a single mum of 4 children, the sole provider of 4 children. And then my mum's got a crazy story. And I write about it a little bit in the new book, but my mum's got a crazy story, how she was born out of wedlock in the 1950s and was meant to be, and my nana had to hide her in a coat because my mum's dad fled. I think I told you this story on the podcast, so I won't get into it. But so my mum's mum and grandmother, there was this nervous system thing. So I'm watching, like, even though all the work I'm doing, there's like some stuff that I can't think about. It's just there. You know what I mean? And that's why I haven't got everything nailed. Like, I can talk and I can teach on things, and share my experiences with things, but I'm still doing so much work on myself. I'm still coming up against so many things, and I wouldn't call it straight out martyrdom anymore, although I get it, but I would say it's more subtle for me now. Like on a gross scale, I'm not like, I've learned more the importance of not neglecting my soul for this idea of changing the world, because I know that if I am my soul, I am changing the structure of the world. But it's more subtly. Like, I've noticed myself text something to someone or stand my ground or be really assertive, which I have no problem doing. But then I can tell that if they're not receiving it properly, I will like soothe and oversoothe and oversoothe. And I'll notice these patterns in myself where it's like just, and it starts to take so much energy from me, how I'm trying to take care of where other people are at to receive me and my truth. And then it starts to become self-neglect for me. And it's not just, yeah, but you're caring, you're empathetic. Sure. But when it starts to take so much energy from me because I'm worrying and caring, making sure that they're able to receive me in my assertion and my truth in what I've told them. Like, for instance, I'm in a situation right now where I've told someone, and again, there's nothing personal or like negative or anything, but I've just said, I don't want to be a part of that anymore. It's not aligned for me. I want to, and just very clear, let me know, boom, 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 boom. But they're coming back with like a little bit of where they're at anyway. They're finding it really hard to, there's like some kind of energetic like manipulation that's trying to go on. And so I'm just really like observing myself, and I'm just find like 5 years ago, I would have been like perhaps easily talked back into, oh, but I want to do it for them. I want to do it for them. I want to do it for them, and just like repeat. But now I'm just like, I've got 2 little kids, and I'm just like, no, like, I don't need to prove that I'm a good person. If you're upset by this, like where does it fucking end that you need to be responsible for how everyone else in the world feels? Like, where does it end? Like, when you're neglecting yourself, when you're just neglecting yourself to such a point where you care more about taking care of other people's feelings, when you're like energetically just taxed, like, where's the point at which it ends? Like, you can be a caring, empathetic, beautiful human while still being assertive and clear and protective of your, like, respectful of yourself, you know what I mean? And without feeling like yeah, and I have experienced a lot of that. And I think that my energy is very generous. And over the years, I've been super generous with a lot of things, money, energy, time. And so I have noticed people come that have tried to like manipulate and take advantage of my generosity. And I can see it all. Back then I could see it, but back then I don't think I asserted myself as strongly as I do now. So that was another form of martyrdom. But then there's also people around me who I've created this life. I've done so much work on myself. I've become clear on all my stories. And so when other people aren't ready or willing to do that themselves, I try and make it my responsibility to do it for them. And I've really learned, and I talk about in my new book, that responsibility over responsibility and is a sense of narcissism, because you feel like you're better at their soul than they are. And you're better at getting them on their path than they are. And so that's why it's a practice, but I've started to realize what I want to help that person understand what they can do with their money story. I want to help that person understand. I want that person to be okay with like, and I start to be like, fuck, Peter, like you've done so much work on yourself, so much work. When it comes time to be just proud to be in your truth and to be able to speak it clearly, why do you then spend the next 3 days over-soothing the person who's heard it? When there was in no way being rude, mean, nothing like that. It's just that they, like, for instance, if I end an agreement and they don't want me to end the agreement, it's just simple like that. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of subtle. It gets subtle. This martyrdom gets really subtle. And so I've started to just realize that the only way I'm a gift to anyone in my life is if I'm true and clear. And I know that in times in my life where other people in my life have been true and clear with me, like especially because I started earning big money in my early 20s, right? So I was thrust into this big business world where I was still really growing up. So I had to learn quick and fast. And, you know, there was just, it was just, I have other people demonstrate to me clear boundaries while still being the most loving person ever and speaking their truth or being so loving. And I respect it so much that I always ask myself when I'll assert myself, or, you know, in whatever way it looks for you, when I assert myself, I'll always ask, remember how much you respected and learned from those people who did that for you. Mm-hmm. Don't deprive the people around you that, because you're so afraid that they're not going to be okay. Because you're not God. This is their journey to go on. You're responsible for your truth and your expression and being a caring person, but you can't take on the responsibility of someone else's evolution. You know what I mean? But anyway, I don't know if I just went on a big tangent right then, but that's where it's at for me. But just in terms of motherhood, yeah, like my husband always says, you're really good at self-care. I am, because I have a daughter. I have a son, but I have a daughter. And I want her to see that. And, you know, it's important. And so it became really urgent for me to not just slowly heal some things, but to radically heal some things when now my daughter can like remember what she's, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that you just start to feel this fire in you where it's like old patterns and these energetic leaks and all this stuff, you just start to become so intolerant of them, like not anymore. And that's what motherhood really did for me. It's just like, no. So now I'm just like the tough conversations and things, like I love them because they're always a conversation to speak from here, but in a way that's so respectful of yourself, in a way that perhaps we didn't in the past, you know?
Yes. Yeah. So much to say. But I think we're gonna take a 5-minute break just so people can go to the bathroom, get water, what have you, and we'll meet back here at 6:12 our time, but 5 minutes from.
Okay. I'm gonna go make a little drink. How are we going so far? Can I just ask how everyone's going so fast? Because I
would love to see it.
I can't see in the chat, but I always just go off on things, and sometimes I always wonder, like, wow, did I just go off on a thing that people would just like
people not frothing this? Yeah, really great.
Don't manage their experience, Pete. This is your lesson, baby.
You gotta do. See what I mean? Say, are you guys all right?
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that there's nothing wrong with being there's nothing wrong with being a caring
We gotta
person.
take a break. I love you. We gotta take a break. 5 minutes.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Is birthing. I peek out from patterns, eyes peel back the lanterns. This surf is a swift one. It's a delicate thrashing, this undertow daunting. The task is at hand, not a moment too soon. When doubled and breaking, all wide-eyed and crazy, you whisper sweet somethings to the one you are saving. Your mirror in likeness, your servant in highness, the earth in one being, your body the queen. I do not show the skin for you, I show myself to know myself. I show for the earth from which I came, my prayers for you to do the same. I do not show the skin for you, I show myself to know myself. I show for the earth from which I came, my prayers for you to do the same. All we've got, it will spread it like comfort. We'll out all the insides and down all the corners. And when doubled and breaking, all wide-eyed and crazy, you whisper sweet somethings to the one you are saving. Your mirror in likeness, your
Hello, guys. Welcome back. so glad that flew by. The whole thing is flying by. I don't know if you guys are feeling that too. It's absolutely flying. I would love in the chat before P comes on for you guys to talk about what has been the most impactful thing that she's spoken to, the most relevant thing she's spoken to. Is it the money stories? Is it the martyrdom? Is it the ways in which we prioritize other people's needs before ours? What parts have really been crazy impactful for you? And oh, the picture is up, not us. Hold on one second.
Oh, that's just P. So once she takes off the
Perfect.
once her video comes back.
But you guys can see us?
Yes. We're right there.
Okay, perfect. It's weird she says.
Dun,
Oh, perfect. Maybe that's it.
all right.
Can you see us now? Can you see me now? Perfect. Hello. Okay. Guys, why is expensive mascara like trash? Honestly. Okay. I think, yeah, the full responsibility is huge. I think, and you know, speaking to full responsibility, that taking full responsibility of everything in your life is like 201, 301. That is alignment on the next level. That is spirituality on the next level. You know, it's awareness, it's integration, and then taking full responsibility is like next level spirituality. So much honor to you guys. I think it'd be interesting too to talk about the ways in which you guys or we potentially soothe others or just make others feel better over our own alignment. And there actually is, I was listening to a talk of Abraham Hicks. You guys know Abraham Hicks. And Abraham Hicks was even talking about, it's the moment when, say, your mom calls you. This is a perfect example for me. Say your mom calls you and you have that moment where you're like, oh, I don't really want to answer right now. I don't want to talk right now. But you answer instead. So it's even those micro moments of you doing something that you do not want to do or you're not called to do and still doing it. So that's an old story or old patterning as an example of like me believing I always have to answer, me believing I always have to be there, me believing I always have to be available, and actually doing something that I really don't feel called or excited to do. Hello, P.
I've got Pax down here in my boob. Hey.
Oh, Paxi, show us the goods.
He's this huge baby having a little.
Dude, what?
Yeah, you jumbo size.
Jumbo size. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
good.
he's really big. He was born 10 pounds and then he just went up and up and up and up and up. He's just hilarious. Yeah, you Pax. No, you're not getting on the call, Baba. Keep eating. Come on.
Oh my God. Hello, Pax baby. Okay. Everyone, let's take a little breath, bringing us back in. We're going to be here for the rest of our time. We have a section, just Peta and I, and then Lindsay's going to hop on with Peta, and then we're going to do Q&A. So bringing us back in, focusing us back in the here and now to this evening. And we're going to be talking about stories. So what the old stories are that we are currently living with now and how we can create new ones is so relevant to the ways in which we live. And we're also going to talk about healing and how to own your story. And, you know, we talk about a lot just doing the work and how we are healing and how we are owning our stories. A huge part of living, you know, the life that you can today. Yes, people are loving that you're nursing and giving us wisdom. I want to talk about, Peta, for old stories. What do you think as a collective, you know, what are some of the old stories that you see as most prominent that we are going to have to create new ones for?
I mean, there's so many. You mean about the world or individually?
Yeah, let's say about the world. Maybe it is about, you even talked about like clothes that people wear, like stories about clothes that people wear.
Yeah, well, I think the whole us and them, like
Yeah.
I don't know where to begin, but essentially the entire, we all tell different stories about the world, right? And that's the thing, is like there's not, but there is a general collective story about like this hierarchy, and hierarchy doesn't have any place in the new way. I've always felt off about celebrity anything. Like, sure, respect and admiration for people is one thing, but this idea of like that there's a hierarchy, it's just in the new way, like I see it energetically, it's the triangle, and the triangle's not there. It's a round circle. It's that everybody's living their unique soul purpose, and no one is high. Like, there's no hierarchy. Whether you're the Buddha or whether you are a gardener, there's no hierarchy. It's, if you're living according to your own soul, that's our job. It's not to climb a ladder, it's to go in. And this is why in Earth is Hiring I talk about success being a triangle or a round. And it's really relentless to try and be the triangle, because you're going to go up and up and up and up and up, and then you're going to, get there. But whose model of success was that in the first place? So our entire model of success and everything, and it's been structured that way so much, where, people are, just the idea of government and being governed. Like, I always think about what the government means. You're being governed. And I always think, like, how many people aren't governing themselves because of this idea of government? And so we for me, it's this, the story is always that I self-govern, and it's, and again, there's so many different level, like, places where people can see it from. But there, in terms of money, money is one of those ones where it's a huge story. I think the overarching story is separation. The overarching story that we've been telling is one of separation. That over there, this over there. And there's so many different stories of separation. There's race separation, there's gender separation, there's class separation. And the thing with class separation, like what I talk about in Stop Missing the Point, which is one of the things I put in there that I thought this is going to piss some people off, is that when people talk about class separation, and it's still a story of separation, so when people are shaming people because they've chosen or they've gone after a certain level of monetary success, which may be perfectly aligned with their soul, when people shame that, that's still a story of separation. It's saying that wealthy people are greedy. And it's not always true. Sometimes poor people are greedy. And so sometimes I think that it's much more noble to shame things in that direction.
Yep.
Because we think that it doesn't matter, but they've got money, but it's still a story of separation. It's still a story of separation. Right. And that's why I bring it up in my book, because it was like bubbling for me. Like, when people say, I share in my book a story about how someone said to me, someone close to me said to me, Serena Williams, why is she throwing a racket up? She's earned so much money. And I said to them, so fucking what? She's earned so much money, so she can't have a fit. What, she can't get emotional on the court because she's got money? What, so she's like a robot because she earns money? Like, to explain to me this money story about why Serena Williams is not able to throw a fit on the court because she's got money. Like, and I got so heated, because as a 20-something-year-old who grew up, my bedroom was a garage. We had no hot water. My mom had to boil the water on the stove, pour it into the bath every night for us to have a bath for a lot of winters. Just paycheck to paycheck, like many people. That's not abnormal, like many people. However, in my 20s, I changed my story because my soul was asking me to. I wanted to retire my mum. I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to travel the world comfortably, I'll add. I wanted to have the healthiest food and water available. And these were things that were really aligned for me. I wanted to be so generous that I could give without blinking an eyelid. And I did, and I do. And so I had to change my story. And the amount of shame that I come up against for that was unbelievable. But the knowing in my soul and the refusal to be, it gave me more fire, because I was like, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that. And so, Pepsi, come on, Bubs. So I was very clear on how I wanted to live and how my money story needed to change in order for that to happen. but again, people, and I've come up with a lot of people, just even assumptions they make, assumptions people make about people who are living differently. Because we all have our, like, again, some people are here and they want to experience a certain level of, like when I had my human design reading with Jenna, she was like, you know, there's no part of you that seeks like fame or notoriety. And it's so true. Like, my success is so, as long as I feel it, I'm cool. And so there's no part of my human design that's like, I need the whole world to know who I am. There's nothing in that is what I'm driven by. My living alignment with my soul is what I'm driven by. So then when people will assume things about, you know, and then there's other people who they really are wired in this life to go after fame and notoriety. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's the thing. There's nothing wrong with if people want to get rich, get famous. There's nothing wrong with that. That's their experience in this soul life. And yet then we make it easy for them. And I talk about it and stop missing the point. Easy for them, easy for some, we have this story that if it is easy for them, which we don't even know if it is, that's wrong. What's so wrong if their life is easy? What's so bad about that? Like, and so we're projecting our stories onto others, and so we can tell a good amount about what we believe, about the stories and assumptions we make about other people. And so that's why I get stuck into wealth shaming, because I'm like, look, I need to go there because, like, I'm not going to cop other people's stories when it's not my story. And it's like, and again, if I'm going to be talking about separation, then let's really talk about separation. Let's talk about when we assume something about someone else's life because of their race, because of their money. Hold on a second, Krista. I'm going to... Hold on, Patsy. Hey, Sammy.
This is next level. This is true. This is very true.
He needs to have an eyes and think more.
The sun's kind of setting.
I've got to rock him in the patch on the glass.
A little bit closer.
Sorry, Bubba. Okay. Paxie's like fighting his nap today, big time.
Carly says she's holding her breath. So
I
have so much to say. And, you know, thinking about when you are talking about celebrity and the wealth shaming, you know, when we're saying something like Serena Williams has no right to throw a racket because she's making millions of dollars, it really is in saying about the way that we structure our society and culture that money is the thing of most value, because if they have the thing of most value, which is money, then they have no right to want anything else. So we believe when people have money that they have it all. And that's kind of the story that we talk about. And then when you're talking about separation, you know, that is one of the things that happens when our souls come back to incarnate. And one of the things that within Law of One, they really talk about, which is the idea of separation, is this idea that it's almost like a forgetting. When we come back down to third density, we forget that we all are one. And that really is so much of our learning is coming back to the fact that we all are one. And so much of it too is the forgetting of who we are, the forgetting of who our souls are, how powerful we are, all of these things. But I wanted to talk about within the stories. I think it's something that's really pertinent for this group, because you guys are all conscious and aware, is spirituality, and how in the spiritual community, they can also do the othering, and they can also create more separation. So I'd love to explore that with you.
Okay, so what's the
just how in the spiritual community, how people, it's the spiritual community isn't immune to also greater separation.
No, exactly. So basically what happens was in third dimension, I don't like to classify any of this because we're like bouncing. I know, but it makes sense.
It does, yes.
When we're all bouncing between, you know, are you drinking apple cider vinegar?
What? Yeah.
I thought you were drinking straight apple cider vinegar.
Not sponsored. No, I wish I was that cool. My teeth would be literally rotting in my mouth.
Oh my God, I can't even, oh my God, you are literally a wellness guru.
I know, totally.
But anyway, when we go, like, I always describe it like, you know, the third dimension, we are condemning spiritual things and obsessed with material things. And then when we move to the fourth dimension, it flips. And then people start to condemn Chanel bags and business class and money, and because they think it's more spiritual. Really, it's the same coin just being flipped around. It just seems more acceptable now. And then we go to the fifth dimension, or this place where it's like, it's just choice. What are you here to experience? Are you to have a castle? Are you to have a castle or a shack? It's what your soul is here to experience. There's no right, wrong, good, bad, positive, or negative in that respect. That's where we're going. And that's what I've been working on embodying for a while, which I feel like when I got the detour from my PhD, I feel like I was being like trained up to have this conversation, because I had to go through it myself. And I had to go through it with both the material and the spiritual side by side. So I could speak from that place where I'm like, I've been there, and like I've been judging from both points, you know. So not judging from both points, but I mean, I had, my task was to merge, was the great merge, I call it. And that's where we're going. So I think in the spiritual communities, yeah, it's like, it's still separation, but it seems more noble and righteous. And it's just not.
It's the righteous separation. It's like,
yeah.
And so I think it's just understanding that, and I know all of you do, but it's like, I have to also see that clearly. I have to also remember, I have to also bring myself back to a place of understanding that within the spiritual community, there still is othering and there still is separateness. And it almost comes in like a different type of package than another way. It's the judgment. And even, you know, something that you said that was very profound for me was on your book tour for Earth is Hiring, talking about being vegan and the dogma around being vegan, and how that is like a sense of separateness, even though it's under the guise of for the good of all.
Yeah, that's the thing, is if an individual has their own self-governance, if their relationship with animal protein in this life is different to yours, it doesn't make yours more right than theirs just because of how you've watched Cowspiracy, or just because it's really true for you, or just because you cry at the thought. Like, even if it's so emotional for you, it doesn't mean that it's someone else's truth. It doesn't. And that's the thing, is like, you know, that's how we move through life. It's that this is my truth, so then it's the truth. And we don't realize that there's 1,000 ways to get to Rome, and it doesn't change Rome. You know, there's a million ways to get to Rome even, and everyone's going to go their own path there. And if everybody is in right relationship with their soul, then everyone's in right relationship with the whole, and you can trust that. And rather than trying to get other people on your page, you get yourself on your page, and that's your work. And so when I was vegan, I was a really judgy vegan when I was vegan, and I thought everybody needs to be vegan. I didn't understand why people still ate meat. It was disgusting. Why don't people see what I see? Why don't people know what I know? Why aren't people as evolved as me? You know? And then one day in Malibu, before my book tour, the night before my LA book tour, my body was like, you need to eat fish, like right now. And in an instance, I changed my mind, because my body is an authority that trumps absolutely everything. And so here I am facing off with this piece of fish, and all of my dogma and stories are being challenged about what I believed, who I believed I was, and all this stuff, because my body was asking me like, are you going to choose me or the dogma? Because you're breastfeeding right now an 8-month-old baby, and you're traveling the world on a book tour, and I'm telling you that I need you to eat something from the animal kingdom. And even though it's denying everything you've always known about yourself, how willing are you to change your mind? And because I am really willing to change my mind, I love to change my mind. That's how life works. If you don't change your mind, you're not living, because life is different in every moment. It's not linear. It's like Osho says, it's like atomic realities. Literally, like in the next moment, I may decide that I never want to do another workshop again, because I've decided that I'm going to be a naked body painter. Like that's how free we've got to be, you know, like. And so for me, it wasn't about what's the rules with how I eat. It is what's the place from which I'm eating and making my decisions. And I copped a lot of shit, because a lot of people followed me thinking I was this certain person who ate a certain way, and that meant something about who I was. Not realizing that it didn't change anything about who I was, because I changed how I ate. It didn't change anything about who I was. It just meant that I had new information and new truths, and something else was more rewarding for me and more important for me. And a very adequate and necessary part of my soul journey.
Mm.
And I had to follow that. So the next day I started talking about it at the event, because I like to process things really quickly. And then I did it again at the New York event, and I rubbed up against some criticism there. I spoke about that in my new book too, where, but it's just like, I'm not going to deny my body wisdom my whole life because of, you know, and even now, and then I've gone through phases like Soul. I was vegan her entire pregnancy. I was vegan 3 years. I was vegan her entire pregnancy. She was 9.5 pounds. So I was obviously thriving. The first 8 months, 9 months, I was breastfeeding her vegan. And then things changed. And with Pax, I couldn't stand a chance being vegan as his mum. No way. My body.
That 10-pound baby. Mm-mm.
No, his requirements were very clear when I was pregnant. And if I had have chosen dogma or other people's story or other people's soul evolution ahead of my own, then I'm not just neglecting myself, I'm neglecting my baby.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then people say, of course you can have a healthy vegan pregnancy. Yeah, of course you can. I had one with Soul. But this pregnancy was different, and life changes. And again, people say, but it's so wrong to eat meat. But is it really? It's your belief it's so wrong to eat meat. It's not everyone's belief it's so wrong to eat meat. Mm-hmm. And you try telling Indigenous people, especially in Australia, who've been 40,000 years, the longest standing culture in the world, you try telling them that it's wrong to eat meat. You know what I mean? Like, again, it's like our belief is not everyone's belief. And the minute we realize that, especially with regards to politics and everything, like, of course I get so pissed off sometimes. I'm like, how can they not see? Like, and I get so frustrated, and I'm just like, because we're on completely different soul journeys. It's not my job. Like, everything's perfect in the world, even if they don't see.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's my job to see and to express myself in ways that may or may not help others to see. Again, that's not my job either. It's not my job to wake people up. And I don't like when people say that too. It's like, it's not my job to inspire people. It's not my job to wake people up. It's not my job to empower people. It's not my job. My job is to express myself. That's it. That's literally it.
I love that. I've been like writing down, I just want to make clear for people, and I want to check with you if you think this is, you know, appropriate before we transition to Lindsay, of how people can connect more deeply with their soul and find, you know, their stories and rewrite new ones. So I wrote down, you know, one of the first steps is questioning, you know, the stories that you currently have. And then I have as the second, writing a list and getting clarity like you did when you were transitioning from your PhD program to your life and talking about how you wanted abundance and you wanted to travel the world. I have listening to your body, you know, when you're talking about your journey being, you know, a vegan and transitioning out of that, your truth was in your body. And then I have the self-expression piece. So it's expression of the truth into the world. Would you say that those are accurate, or do you think I'm missing anything for them to really nail down or write down as part of their process?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is everyone's process is different. I can't even give you a process. I can't write it down. I can't put it into my only process is pay attention. That's it. Pay attention. That's my only process, is to pay attention and to get really curious and to then just know what's in between me and that. So for instance, when we were in London, I was 29 weeks pregnant, and we intended to have the baby in London. I had a midwife there. I had my midwife from Australia flying there. Everything was set. And at about 29 weeks pregnant, I got a very, very strong hit that I needed to go home to Australia to have Pax. And we had a home. We had, that we were renting, thank God. But we had a home. We had everything set up for the birth. My husband had very important work that he was leaving there. And yet it was so clear. So my process used to be spending a lot of energy trying to think, is this impulse true? Whereas I learned that it is true. And my job now is what is in between me and allowing it. Like, what is in between me and allowing my life to move with that truth. And so I had the conversation with my husband, and thank God my husband is very aware to and understands life, and very willing as well, particularly around the birth of a child, that if there's such strong intuition there, that it's important for the whole family at some level. And at 32 weeks pregnant, we were on a 17.5-hour flight back to Australia, and had bought a house that we were going to have our baby in, and rearranged everything with the midwife. There was a lot of logistics, a lot. But that impulse, that guide that I had, it was the feeling it was in my body was excitement and relief, because somewhere in my body, and it was sudden, that somewhere in my body I wasn't okay with giving birth to this baby in the middle of London winter. And it's somewhere in my body I anticipated, or my body can see, because our body can like see other things. It can see like ahead and around corners and way up. It can see other things that we can't see. So at some point my body intelligence knew that it just wouldn't be the most nourishing place for me to be in postpartum with Pax, and that we needed to go home. And also my body could obviously see coronavirus was coming, because we've been locked down in a very sunny place near my mum and my family. Whereas if we had stayed in London, we would have been there in London, where it's been really bad. In Australia, it's been really mild. I mean, the lockdowns and everything. We've still been going to the cafes, going to the park and everything here, been around my family. So my body could see around the bend, you know, where I couldn't. And so when I felt this jolt of excitement in my body around this idea of going home, I just sat with it for a little bit. But I would say no longer than an hour. And oh my God, like that's the most exciting and relieving thing for me right now. And even though logistically it doesn't make any sense, that's not the way I move through my life. And sure, I'm in a position where we can pivot and we can live like that, but that was very intentional for me too. You know, it wasn't accidental. It was very intentional to create the life where I could be that nimble, because it was important to my soul. So anyway, we came back to Australia and people were like, what are you doing? We just got to London. And I was like, I know, but new information. And my family we're always grounded together. We're always together. Our children are like, Sol's been all around the world. That's our life, but she's super grounded. She has communities in all places. And now we're here and we've settled, we have the baby. Now we're probably going to chuff off again. Where to? We don't know. And doesn't matter, because we can do our work anywhere. And our family, like, this is the season that we're in, exploring the world. Where do we want to settle? Where do we want to be? We don't know yet. We're not going to choose yet just because we have little kids and people are telling us that you should choose already, you know? And so it's just, that was another moment in my life where I could have very easily ignored it. However, the clarity was so clear that I just had to trust it and then take care of all the logistical things, which was a lot. Like another logistical thing was that I made the entire Earth to Kids book in the UK, and that cost a lot of money because in Great British pounds. And then I was coming back to Australia, and the dollar was so much less here to sell it here. It messed up the whole plan, but it just, all of that stuff was so minuscule, because integrity with myself is always the goal. So if I was ticking that box, then everything else is still a success. My book work turned out how it was meant to work, turned out, those things don't come first. Making sense doesn't come first to me. Living logistically a life that makes sense doesn't come first to me. Integrity with being nimble and integrity with my own soul does. And so some people, they think that, again, some people would look at how I live and be like, that's wild. But for me, it's not.
Yeah.
And we'll have to know ourselves in that way, you know?
Yes. we're going to transition over to Lindsay. Do you want to do a poll? One of our polls.
Yeah, we can do a poll. So this poll was about, I don't know if we're going to talk about it with Lindsay, but we're going to talk about like expressing yourself truthfully. I think that's what the polls are for.
Okay. All right, guys, we're going to launch it and switch.
Okay. So these were about expressing yourself truthfully, because I think authenticity is one of those things in the personal development world where we talk about it a lot. Be authentic. That has actually become like a buzzword now. Be authentic. And so people are trying to be authentic, and by trying to be authentic, they're not being authentic. So it's like, yeah, and it's interesting, sometimes when it feels safe is the highest one. And again, there's no right, wrong, good or bad, guys. Like, it's whatever is right for you. There are still some things that I don't share on social media, not so much because of fear, but because of privacy. So it's not, again, being authentic doesn't mean that you bear all. Being authentic is just that you say what you mean, and you live with the most relentless commitment to yourself, and you speak and you act from that place.
Yeah. I've just noticed so much, and we just published the poll so people can see the results. So many people said, you know, sometimes when it feels safe, and I totally relate to that. But there's just something funny that social media has done, where it has created a space in which we can do whatever we want, truly.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're still kind of bound by this judgment, you know, whether it's from other people or just judging ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to like really ride this wave of going from old to new, like how do you know to be true? What do you know to be true for you, and how you drop the judgment, receiving it, giving it, self-inflicting it?
I watch Ricky Gervais and try and be like him. No, just kidding. But I used to live near Ricky Gervais, and I love him on multiple levels. I think he's literally like one of the greatest inspirations I've ever had in my life. And I write about him in my new book because I've met him in real life on multiple chances. I know that he has a huge fucking heart, and I know that he is he would play with my dogs and look my dogs in the eyes literally for 15 minutes at the park, like in love with them. Like, he is exactly who he says he is. But he says things that he speaks in such a way that is so piercing and funny, but he just truly doesn't give a shit. He's so clear on who he is. His job is not to please people. His job is to express that in a way where, like, his work is just brilliant. And again, everyone has their own different people who inspire them. Mine's Osho and Ricky Gervais. And two men, how unfeminine of me. Like, seriously, shouldn't I be more feminine? Shouldn't I be a woman? Oh my God, I'm just so anti-woman, you know? Like, that's the thing, is even while writing in my book how Ricky Gervais is one of my greatest inspirations, I think I wrote in there, yeah, and he's a white man. He's a white man. Like, that doesn't mean that I'm not up to trend with all the things. It's just fucking way he is, you know? I don't look at him and think that he can't be inspiring because he's a white man. And that's the thing, is where a lot of people, like, we're trying to say things and we're trying to believe things because they're nobly and societally, like, on trend or correct, you know, whatever. And anyway, so Ricky Gervais inspires me the most. I watch his work all the time. And again, it's not, yeah, I love people that, even if I don't agree with them, who say what they mean and live in a way where they focus more on their art and than they do on trying to overplease. And that's like my goal, is I have so much art within me, whether it's how I mother, you know, that I don't want to spend my energy. Like, my brain works so fast, like my metabolism is so high because my brain goes so fast thinking things that I can literally try and take care of a million people in my head just as I'm trying to go to bed, you know. And but I want to spend more energy on my art and my creativity, because at the end of the day, that's going to be my legacy. It's like, that's anyway. So he's one of the people who inspires me the most. He truly is. And again, he says things that some people are like, what? He can't be a good person because he says that. And it's so not true to me. It's not. It's just that, so I love that level of, I love that level of, I'm just reading this poll.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what holds you
Yeah.
back? A lot of people said that the fear of what others think, and it's just so funny how, like, if that's what most people feel, then it's just so funny to think about that the person who you're fearing is judging you is probably just as worried about other people judging them. It's just a very, and you posted, I'm trying to think of the specific post.
I'm just like fully licking my cup and my lid here.
I love it. When we're talking about judgment and we are like looking at someone, say we're getting on a plane and we're passing, we're going to the business class, and we're making all of these assumptions, right? And this is a blanket statement. Not everyone does this, but I'm sure we've had moments where we've done this, like, oh wow, like what must they do, and like to deserve all of this. And your point was so profound to me in that, sure, they're sitting in first class, maybe they travel all the time and this makes it tolerable, or maybe they're traveling somewhere to, someone in their family might be sick. Like, we don't know the circumstances that people are living under, and that feels like the new way to me of understanding, or actually leaving space and room for that possibility, for all possibilities.
But as well, like, the thing is that we have to move beyond is that why do we want people to be struggling? Why would we prefer that the rich person was struggling? What's wrong with if the rich person was having a great life? What if that's the experience this time? And we will notice how we feel about that statement will tell us a lot about what we let ourselves explore. And
right.
So the rich person in business class might be sitting there like this and may have no problems right now. They may have a lot of problems. We don't know. They may have none. We don't know. We don't know. And again, we don't know what other people are here to learn and here to experience. And so we've got to notice where we prefer others stay small. We prefer others struggle a bit because we prefer ourselves to struggle a bit, and we prefer ourselves to play small. So when we see other people fully liberated and fully expressed, and you see it as well with women, they'll post like a sexy photo, and then women who are all about empowerment will be like, that's a bit slutty, rah, rah, rah. What happened? So that you want them to be liberated, but only to the degree that you were willing to liberate yourself. And up until that point, it rubs, so you see people who are like, I want people to be free. I want people to be themselves. But then when they are, if that's beyond the level that you've allowed yourself to be, it will either inspire you or will piss you off. So the judgments we make about other people and how we want them to live so that we're comfortable is telling us a lot about ourselves. So it's like, we don't know, like, and this is the thing, it's not our job. The new way is not about bringing people down a peg. It's not about that. It's about getting ourselves so on our own wave and so in tune with ourselves that we don't spend our time obsessing about what others are experiencing and having. And there's a Jamie Sands quote in my new book which talks about this, like, we can never presume to know what another person's here to learn by taking up a human body in this life, and we just can't. So when we make judgments about what other people are having, we've got to firstly realize that it's coming from, if we're saying that's too much money, that's too much enjoyment, that's too much ease, that's too much hotness, too much sexiness, too much this, then that's exactly what we're saying to ourselves. And then we're wondering why we're hitting up all these walls in our personal development journey,
Sure.
So this is why we have to, that old quote, live and let live, like, I really believe in that. And I believe that we're trying to change other people so much when we don't even realize that we're just meant to be evolving ourselves. And when we do that, we change the world, we change the structure of the world. And it doesn't mean that we don't share our views and share our things, but we're doing it from a place of expression. We're not, we don't need to act as if we are going to oversoul this person and be their soul because our soul knows better for them than they do, right?
Right. Yeah. And it just makes me think about, you know, and Krista brought it up before, but like the self-development space, and even like just seeking so much outside of ourselves to get the answers. You know, I
Yep.
feel like here in LA, it's like times 10. And we're in a space where we are kind of vetting individuals and interviewing individuals who are kind of offering this, hey, work with me, and hey, do this, and you will know yourself. And
Yeah.
I do think, you know, we've met incredible people who are doing incredible work, but I do want to have a conversation around like, and where is that too much, and where does like seeking just take us so far away from ourselves, and how do we become kind of like our own like guru is, you know, I don't want to use that word, but for lack of a better word.
Yeah, I think that in the personal development world, there's so many. Again, you always want to be careful of people who say they're going to empower you, or they're implying that they have your power and you don't. And this is why I don't do that. And even when I was in the supercharging mentoring program, I always told them over and over again, I don't know better for you than you. And this is why I don't do coaching, because I can do consulting if I wanted to, in terms of I give you my ideas, but I can't tell someone what to do or give them life advice. I don't believe there's nothing wrong if that's your job, but it's not mine, because I just want people to take responsibility for their own curiosity and their own knowing, and to find that place of authority and governance in themselves. I don't want them to feel like I am that person for them, because I'm not. So all I want to do is express myself in my journey and help people get there. And so be careful when someone is trying to imply that their services have your power and you don't. You don't have the power. And there's a lot out there. There's a lot of cowboys out there. It's just the truth. There's people who just regurgitate information. There's people who, and it's dangerous, because there's genuinely people who are seeking, and there's a lot of really good ones out there. That's the thing. There's a lot of really great people who genuinely have really great information, and they tend to be the ones. Sometimes you have shitter websites. So like my greatest healers, I always talk about that on websites. Like I always say, like I always find it weird when like a really good healer has a really good website. Like they're the, you know, so it's, yeah, it's just, you always know. That's the thing. We've all bought things that we've been like, wow, that was just a load of shit, wasn't it? So we all know this is the thing, is just use your intuition and know that there's a lot of like really, there's people using all this NLP and all this stuff to try and get you into programs that you don't need. But there's also people who have really things that you'll feel a pull towards. So know how to discern between, I'm really excited by that and I'm really called to it, and that person's making me feel like I will be less off, like my life will be shit without it. There's a big difference there. And there's some people who are genuinely like, no, I'm putting this out, you know, and there's such a difference in the energy, right? Like there's some people that I follow on Instagram and stuff, and I'm like, wow, I love their process in how they nurture their community and sell programs. I love it. There's other people I follow and I'm just like, how are people signing up to that? How? But again, it's because it's not for me. It doesn't mean it's not for someone else. But you just got to be really discerning. And this is the thing I think on social media, I always just, when I want to express myself in the moment, like I'm doing so trusting that people are able to discern. When I publish a limited edition book, I'm doing so trusting that people can discern whether they're in the position to get it or not. But it's not going to just, like, I'm going to do my process authentically, and I trust that people will discern what's for them and what's for not. You know, there's no like manipulation or anything like that, you know? And so I think you've got to be mindful that there's some people there's just such a difference between people really beautifully expressing themselves and inviting you and manipulating. And it's not up to them to stop. It's up to you to discern, because your gut and your soul, whatever, is always telling you like, no, your ego might go to something, and your soul may be like, no. And I think in this current landscape, you know, I find myself doing it too, like, oh, that sounds really good, I need that. And then I've given myself a 24-hour rule, because a lot of the time now it's my ego being like, thinking I need something I don't. But if it's something my soul genuinely wants, after 24 hours, it'll still want it, you know?
Yes. We do have a lot of questions, so I actually want to get to Q&A. I'll have Krista rejoin, but so if you do have a question, submit
Q&A time, baby.
Submit your questions.
You ready, P-Town?
Yeah, I'll get through as many as I can.
Of course.
Do you want? You can man the Q&A, or let us know if you'd like us to do it. I just didn't want to.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Great.
Okay. How to build any network marketing business in the new way. So for me, network marketing, I know this won't apply to everyone, is super the new way. I always built my network marketing business in the new way. So I never built it as I am the rock star. I built it as everybody is the rock star. So for me, the way I built my organization was very much in the new way from the beginning. A legacy, everybody's creative independence. There is no top. And that's the thing with network marketing, is if you have the belief that it is that old structure, then your business will play out that way. Whereas for me, it never did. It was always about team. It was always about collaboration. It's always been about freeing people so they can live their own version of heaven on earth. So for me, it was, you've got to take responsibility for your own making it the new way yourself. And that goes with any business or anything you're doing. Again, it's so common that people say, that's so not the new way, that's so the new paradigm. And it's just because people don't want to take responsibility for going there themselves. So that's what you've got to do.
There are a lot of questions on your human design, and the person that did her reading is Jenna Zoe. We did a
she's the best.
You can get, but what is your human design?
Mine is manifester. And I don't know all the different, like sacral, ego, I don't know all of those. I always just go back to my reading notes from her and look at it. Sometimes I even text her and I'll be like, what's my 4-6 or whatever, and she'll just, like, she's so good. But all I know is manifester. I knew my behavior. It's just really confirming to know. And both my children are, I do my children's and I do Eric's. Eric's not like super into it. Maybe one day he will be. I mainly just use it for myself and my kids for right now.
Love it.
Can you speak to having conversations with family members about the stories that you have decided? You can if you want. We have some pretty open dialogue in my family, especially because I write about it. If I do write the next book, which is, I don't know if I'm going to write the book or do it in a different way, but about motherhood and lineage and things like that. But my mum is pretty clear in my family. I always say it from stage and everything when my family's there, that I chose to change our money story. And it's like, my family's like, yeah, woo, glad you did, you know. But there's also other things that like for instance, my mum was unable to rest, and my mum, she was a chairperson of everything, single mum of 4. So there's things there that there's other things that I can say I got from my mum that I love, and there's other things that I don't want, but I know that she's my mum. She wants me to, she always says, like, it's meant to get better with every generation. She always says that to me. So there are some things I'll talk about to her, but there's some things I don't need to. I just change them. And again, one thing that I do feel, and I posted about this other day, is sometimes I feel like I catch myself feeling like I want to make sure my mum's okay with my evolution because she had it so hard. And I just remind myself that I don't need to, because she's my mother and I have a daughter now, and it's my job to evolve, and that she wants me to, you know what I mean? So sometimes I try and make my life seem a bit harder because I don't want to feel like, sometimes I have this thing deep where it's like, to show respect to my mum, I have to make my life seem harder. Whereas because she never got to have rest before bed and she never got to have alone time, whereas it's really important to me that I have alone time. And sometimes I think, don't say that in front of mum because she never got to have it. But I'm just like, no, but I'm going to have alone time as a mum of two. It's important to me. It's important to our whole entire family. So anyway, it doesn't come from my mum, comes from me, but you can have the conversation with your parents if you want about the stories, but you don't have to. Everyone's different. So do I have a curfew for Soul Unpacked? So we have a lot of, our house, we have routine in our house, but also a lot of freedom. So I'm not anti-boundaries or anti-routine. I'm very pro-structure. And I need structure because I am such a wild creative. So, they have a bedtime and they have a bath time. And, but Soul's human design, they're projectors. They don't like meal times. They like to be able to graze all day. And so when I started to learn that about them, I realized that me trying to Soul doesn't like to eat lunch. She likes to have, to eat throughout the day. And so, it's just, so there's those sorts of little things, but we have a bedtime because we tell the kids that the evening time is for mum and dad to unwind. And that's really important. So, I don't know about allowances in terms of, you mean chores and payment? I don't know how we're going to do that, to be honest. I don't know. Soul helps around the house a lot and we just naturally, but I don't associate that with chore money. I don't feel like I want to do that. I'm still exploring how I'm going to really introduce money to them without just repeating, mum works really hard. I don't want to just repeat all the things that I'm really exploring how I want to introduce money to her. And I think I'm going to write a children's book about it because I don't want to just hand down. I want her to have a really grateful, liberated money story. And I don't just want to, I'm just mindful not to say things just because it pleases other adults around me. If it's not what I want from my kid. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So, again, I catch myself saying things, where I'm just, So our children are very grateful and very grounded. However, I am mindful that sometimes as a parent, I feel the need, around society, it makes you feel the need to have to do things a certain way because it's pleases the other parents. And I'm really mindful but I don't actually want that for my child. So it's just all about exploring what you want for them. And I always, as a parent, you'll notice things, you say things to your kids that you'll be like, holy shit, that's what my mum said to me, but I don't want, you know what I mean? And my mum always says that you're a much more conscious parent than my mum's great. And I'll just tell her, sometimes we butt heads on things too. I'll say no, I don't believe that, mum. I don't believe that I should force Soul to share her favorite toy if she doesn't genuinely want to from her heart. I explain to her how beautiful sharing is. And I also tell her a lot of stories which explain sharing and kindness. So I'm doing it in a way that I'm telling her stories and she's learning about it, but I'm not forcing it in her. Whereas if children come over to play and she's sharing her toys, I don't say, you have to share your favorite toy. If she's like, Mom, this is just my favorite toy, I don't want to share it right now. What sort of lesson is that teaching her? Mm-hmm. That you have to share because Mum said you have to share. Whereas if the other kid doesn't want to share, I always tell her, don't worry. You know what I mean? So we have to notice where we're being hypocritical as well, and where we're pushing things on them where we don't actually believe it. And so that's where I'm really mindful of things like that too. I don't and the way I teach Soul a lot of the time, firstly is through modeling. So it's the way I will share my things. I won't tell her to do something and not do it. But the other thing is that I also teaching her self-governance. If she says, Mummy, I really don't want to share this one toy right now, that's fine as well, but in my stories, because every night I tell her stories, and whatever the things that I feel that she's wanting to learn, I will interweave into the story that I tell her at nighttime, because she's very clever. She doesn't need me to do you know what I mean? Like, and it's challenging because it's convenient as a parent to say, do this because I said. And that's the easiest way. And some days you're at your wit's end, you just do it like that. But it's just, I don't want that for her. I don't want her to think, well, I have to do it like this because mum said. And that's just not what I want for her. So it does take a lot more time and energy to have the conversations and treat them like a human and respect them in that way. But again, I don't always get it right, that's for sure. Learning. Yeah, so the life is supposed to be hard. Yeah, I also read Untamed and I love Glennon Doyle, but that's one bit that I don't resonate to. I think we're all going to have hard things to deal with, some more often than others, but it's not going to become my theme song. Yeah. It's not going to become what I put out to the world that I want and that I'm expecting. As a human, I know there's going to be challenges. To the degree, we'll see. We're at the mercy of life here. We come here knowing that we can create some of our life and that some of it's destiny. So that's part of our, I don't know what's up ahead, but I'm not going to say that life is hard. That's not my theme song. It's not the instruction that I'm putting out there. So you can tell any stories you want about ease, and they can be as outrageous as you want. Before I gave birth to Pax, I had a post-it next to my bed that said, I have a beautiful, easy home birth. And some people say, but you can't say that about birth, have an easy birth. Why not? Why not? I did have a beautiful, easy home birth. Why, at what degree do we rein ourselves in from saying what we truly want? Mm-hmm. It's not to say it wasn't intense and I didn't have to really go within myself. Of course I did. But relatively, he came out like a slippery slide and he was 10 pounds. And it's, again, I'm not saying like, look at me. I'm just saying that all things are possible. It's just the degree to which you're willing to go against what everybody says is the reality, Mm-hmm. So you can fuse ease in however you like that. Maybe the thing that comes the most easiest to you is actually a big clue, and so you can create your own story around ease. But I agree. And I know that there's challenging things in life. I've had challenging things in my life, as we all have. However, I'm not going to walk around. That's my theme song, and you don't have to. But that doesn't mean you're denying the reality of life or that you're living a bypassing life. That's the thing, is I think some people think that we just deny the ease and we deny the pleasure and we deny that, whereas I think that a lot, like for instance, this webinar, this workshop for me, this kind of work is my easiest peasiest work that I do. And it's also the one that goes the furthest. And they go like this. Writing books is really easy for me. And publishing and all that, that's my challenge. That's like the challenge. But I pay attention to where the easy things are. Birthing businesses is very easy for me. Managing and over long term, that's where I need the help and stuff because I'm the birther. So you got to just pay attention to where things are easy and maybe pay more attention to those things rather than denying them all the time and only focusing on the things that are hard, thinking that only the things that are hard are worthy. Because we're always going to have hard things. We're always going to have challenging things. But there's also a lot that's very easy. There's a lot that's very fun. There's a lot that's very fulfilling. And sometimes they're all here like, hey, look, I'm a clue, but you're ignoring me because you think it's too easy and it's too good to be true. So you can just continue enjoying your life a bit less,
Love that.
And everyone's different. Some people are going through really fucking hard things. Right. Do you know what I mean? Like really fucking hard things. I'm talking like sick children, like fucking hard things. And that's a reality of life. This is what we sign up for when we play. We just don't know what's going to happen. So if we are not in one of those scenarios, then should we just appreciate the fact that some of our life is easy and let it be okay that it is, Okay, there's lots of questions. So how do I navigate my own truth with Eric around something I'm like the intuitive nucleus of our house, and Eric and I don't agree on everything, but we agree on most things because we have the same values. However, the dynamic of our family is I can very often see around Ben's and I let him know. That's my strategy as a manifestor, is informing. But then he also has some things that I don't believe in, like sacrifice is that word. I don't like that word. But when I express myself truthfully and from my soul, we have set up our life in a way that we can navigate and bend for that. Both of us can, because nothing is more important than the well-being of our family. And my nucleus speaks for the well-being of our family. So there's times when he has to fly back to America or whatever, and I don't go. And, you know, it's just about having the conversation, but speaking from that place and making it work. It's just about making it work. It's just about making it work. But again, Eric is, he's very aware, and and I'm also, yeah, we've both been in positions in our relationship where one of us was in alignment and one of us wasn't. So now we know that we both have to be. That's just the bottom line, I think.
Really true.
So how are you able to connect with yourself to be able to hear what your body and what it's saying? So I think it's a lot of it has to do with the nervous system, to make sure that you're not, this is why I go off social media so often. It's too much input for me. So I will very often download the app, post my stuff, reply to a few people, and then just delete the app. And then I will notice sometimes, like for instance, for me right now, it's not meditating as a mum of 2 young kids. It's just not what I'm being called to do. But I did have a period in my life where I meditated every day relentlessly. For me, it's just about paying attention, and I let it be quite simple. And some days I feel like I need a journal. Some days I feel like I need to go for a walk. Some days I just pay attention and just pay attention. Honestly, it's amazing how much truth you can get if you just let your truth be true. It's so much closer than you think it is. I'm a mum. There's so many questions I don't know.
I know.
Stop missing the point. It's not coming out on audio anytime soon. And this is another point. The books take so long to record on audio, like especially when you have young kids. So Souls took 5 days. No, Souls. Earth is Hiring, which I had when Soul was breastfeeding at 4 or 5 months old, took 5 days, and very engorged breasts to do. It takes a lot of work, especially my books, which are big. So right now, it's just not like worth it for me to do. And that's just from a point of something's got to give. Like I published 2 books with a very small baby. And so going to the studio, firstly, they haven't been open. But secondly, I don't think the book business is so broken in that someone will go and read their book for 5 days, which everyone has a different value on that time. But right now with a young baby, my value on that time is huge. And then once you put it through Audible and everything, it's like, yeah, you just have to, right now, it's just not, it doesn't feel like my most urgent creative thing, because it is such a beastie job. And my baby is so young. And when I did it with Earth is Hiring, it was 5 days in the studio, engorged boobs, mastitis. It's a big job. And so I don't know if I'm going to do a proper audio book. I think the book business really, I don't like the rules of it. Mm-hmm. So that's why I do it myself. I'm thinking of doing more like a video programming where I take a bit of the book and I get the thing and then I do a video thing on it and record it. So it's more like a program than an audiobook, because I can then do it differently and more dynamically. But then again, maybe I will do the audio down the track. Again, it's about, I'm making my own rules when it comes to books, because it's the only way I can create an integrity is if I do it in my way, not the way that everyone else does it. And a lot of the platforms that take your content, they really are in the best interest of the author in so many ways. And again, with a really young baby and an almost 3-year-old, getting the books out was enough for now. So yeah, my answer to that is I'm making my own rules. I was just trying to turn it into a teaching point, but I'll do it when the time is right, but I may not do it because it may be something better that I do. Yeah, so the question about judging, it's harder to have compassion for your family, co-workers and friends. I agree. I think that family, the whole purpose for family is like the biggest learning experience ever, because you are close with people who think differently to you. And so I think it's important that we have people around us who think differently and believe differently to us, because it's such important learning and such important real life. So I agree. It is, I mean, I agree and I don't. Sometimes I do find it easier to be compassionate to strangers. Sometimes I find it easier, but I think when we are close to people, perhaps we assume that we know them so deeply, so we judge them more, when perhaps we really don't know them as deeply as we think, and perhaps we think we have some kind of right as in relationship with them, that they need to be a certain way because we're in a relationship with them. So do you know what I mean? Like, so we have this expectation of them that's less compassionate because they're in our lives. So you need to be like this because you're in my life. Do you know what I mean? Whereas the trick with family is letting them be themselves and being in your life, and not trying to change them, just going to work on what they're bringing up in you, because families are like the ultimate mirror. And for me, my lesson is that, yeah, I do get triggered by people in my family. My work is not being so affected by it, or moving through what it's showing me. Yeah. So what's the difference between being brave and reckless? I don't know, because I think sometimes you have to be reckless to learn. You know, I don't know. Like, some people would look at me and perhaps say that I'm reckless, and I wouldn't say that at all. I would say that, yeah, for me, I don't know. Again, I don't know. You'll know. This is the thing, is you'll know. And again, every time someone asks me, how do I trust my impulse and intuition? You just do. And even if you trust it and it appears to feel reckless, then you're still going to learn from that. It was still right. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've had times in my life where I've got an impulse, I followed it. It wasn't what I thought, but I still got exactly what I needed from it. So you only learn how to trust by trusting. You know, like, you look at all the times looking back that you've trusted your instinct, and you can decipher now, like, when was I trusting my gut, or when was it my ego? Like, you can look back and know all the times when it was like, that was my gut, that was my soul, or no, that was my ego, that was like other influences, and I was, I had other people's energy in me. Like, if you look back, you have evidence from your own soul about what it sounds and feels like. And I always tell people that, like, look back, like, what did it feel like when my soul said that? What did it feel like when I got it right? What did I feel like when I got it wrong? And then that can start to give you like some reassurance, but I think sometimes we think something's reckless because other people say it's reckless. It's actually not. So I know a lot of people who live very chaotic lives from the outside, but for them, it's very harmonic. And so other people would say, wow, that's chaotic. Like, you're an absolute nutcase. And then for them, they're like, what? No, I'm not. Like, this is smooth as for me. So again, it's like, what's the idea of reckless? Only you know. That's the thing, is only you know. And this is why I keep pushing you back to, like, explore it, get curious with it, ask it, like, get to know it. If you haven't read Meet Your Soul by Alyssa Romeo, I love that book. She's a friend of mine, and a book's all about meeting your soul and talking to your soul. And it's amazing. So at what point do you relax on self-analyzing and start living? So I pulled a card the other day for myself, and it said, stop trying to make your life work. No, it said a lot of things, but the one line I took out of it was, stop trying to make your life work. And for me, who I have such a huge cognitive and creative capacity, like, my brain is just can go forever and ever, like probably many of you, but so I'm always thinking about things I can do to make my life better and places I can be. And I'm always like, I create it. I love it. I love the exploration and the adventure. But sometimes desire is like, desire is healthy. It's what makes the world go round. But sometimes desire is coming from a place of unhealthy attachment. And sometimes we just have to see what life, like I say in Earth is Hiring, we are so fixated on what we want from life, but sometimes we have to wait and see what life wants from us and for us. And so it's just like playing a game. Sometimes I'll just ask, okay, well, show me then, where am I meant to be next? Here's where I like to go. Now show me, and just like have a playful game with life, you know? My day is, I'm with my kids all day, and I will take at least one pocket in the day, whether it's an hour or whatever, to let my creative stuff out, whatever that looks like that day. Most days, some days I don't, but I'm at home with my children. I do things with my children. I will take some time to exercise, sometimes with them right next to me, and I will take some time to create. But I love to merge children and creativity and make it one life. They come everywhere, like we travel together, and sometimes I feel like when they get a bit bigger, I might leave the house to work and everything, but I'm just, they're really little, but they know that mummy needs time to create every day. It's for my mental well-being, it's for my life force, and to move. And so I will have, Eric and I tag team a lot. And then if we both have something on, and I'll have some help.
I think we can do like 2 more questions.
So how do you leave a job that doesn't light you up? You've got to, this is again, I'm always going to turn the light back on you. Well, how would you do it if your soul was laying it out for you? If your soul laid out for you the exact plan to leave your job, how would it look? If it was easy, and no, I won't use the word easy because it might not feel easy, but use whatever words you want. If it was a beautiful process, what would it look like? Well, what would the timing be if I knew? So you've got to ask yourself. Again, like someone else coming in to give you the steps, I don't think that's what anyone wants right now. I think we want to be able to go to ourselves for our own coaching. And doesn't mean we're not going to have other people give us guidance and stuff, but when it's, the bottom line is, what I know from all my mentors that I've ever had is that all they've ever done is show me things I already knew. No one ever gave me answers where I was like, fuck, no, you're right, I've got to do that. Oh, I never thought of that. Never, ever, ever once has that happened. So yeah, and that's not saying they haven't been amazing. I have mentors and I love them. It's important. I love, because they show me blind spots, but it's always guiding me back to my own intuition. And even if they give me ideas, it always runs through my own intuition of whether that's right. I even have calls with a channeler who brings ascended masters in, and I ask them all these questions. And sometimes they will tell me things. The ascended masters will tell me things, and I'll run it through my own intuition. I'll be like, I'm not going to do it. Mm-hmm. That's the level of, I'll hear things sometimes from other readings I'll have, and they'll be like, this is where someone told me not to have soul. In India, I had a reading and said, do not have your first child till 2020. And in my gut, I was like, no, she's 2017. And so it's just, you've got to just get used to running it all and getting curious with yourself and trusting yourself. It's the only way is if you start to practice it, and not, there's so many people out there who always will say that they know better for you than you and everything like that. But they can only shine lights on, but you've still got to go within every time. You can't, if you're just going to take advice left, right, and center from everyone outside of you, it will just get so exhausting. So take the guidance and take the inspiration, but you still have to run it all through your own system.
Mm-hmm. Do one more.
Yeah, so so I'll just take this one about how do you be living with a partner or married, and so for me, I'm very free and I need to live like that. It's how I live. However, I'm also in a position where I have 2 young children and a husband, and my husband's someone where he can just live in one spot and everything, but he can work anywhere too, and he actually really thrives on the adventure. Like, I'm like the rule breaker, and then he's like, yes, I'm so glad we broke that rule. And we have this dynamic, and where he is like the practical person, so I'll run my intuition through his practicalness, and so it's a yes in us both. But we're very open and honest in our marriage that if there ever came a point where our alignments didn't align, then that's okay, and that we'll evolve on from a marriage. And I am very clear, and we really go there, and we really have those conversations, in that we're that free, and that we say that we're committed to each other, we're committed to our marriage, but to the degree that our souls are both aligned. And so for now, we are on the same page very much, but we're not so naive as to think that it's guaranteed to be like that forever. So we're very open, and honest in that way, and have had times where we really need to explore that, and really challenging times. So for now, we just of the agreement that we share exactly what we need, and make it work for each other and our kids, and do the best we can as a family unit to make sure all needs are met. And sometimes that means one person more than the other at a time, and we just make it work like that. And if at any point it's like, my needs need to be over here, my needs then we evolve what our family means, and we become a modern family. But for right now, that's not where we are. We're in a loving, committed marriage where we're tending to everyone's needs. But we've still, like I said, in my vows, it was that honoring the soul, individual souls, is the most important thing. Otherwise, we're not giving each other what we signed up for.
Love it.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much.
I feel
so
anew.
much.
Truly, there were so many questions on here, but
there's so many. Sorry guys, I can't get to all of them. There's so many. I think a lot of what you've asked, you will know if you just get really curious. Honestly, like, I think I do. I can give you my insight and my impulse all day long. And I have just written 2 books that have a lot in them, like a lot. So a lot of what I've spoken about are in the books if you want to back it up. So go and read them, because books are like a way of getting so much stuff into like this package where someone can carry with forever. Like, it's such a unique way to give people your views in a time. My views may completely change on from this, and they'll be in the next book. That's the funny thing about books, is you can't be scared to like change your mind. I even write in this front of this book, I may not even believe any of this next week, but it's true. Probably won't.
The books are amazing. Earth is Hiring and Stop Missing the Point. They're available on your website, petakelly.com. I'll have that up on the slide as we leave. But
Yeah.
thank you so much. I
just
mean,
wanted to say one more thing. Just scrolling through the questions where people were saying stuff like, you know, what if I get this and I just want you to know that you're not going to make any genuine mistakes. Like, you just have to go with what feels most right and true with you at the time. And if it's not meant to be, like, I've had so many times where I've made business mistakes, or I've done things that didn't go very long, but I got my lesson from it. So it wasn't like I made a wrong turn. It was still a right turn. It just wasn't what it originally looked like. So that's what, just trust yourself. Like, you're not going to make any genuine mistakes if you're really prioritizing your soul, right? You're not going to make any genuine mistakes, but you are going to have surprises and be like, wow, that wasn't what I thought it was meant to be, or that was a failure, but it wasn't. So just practice trusting yourself. Because if not, then what are we trusting? Like truly, what are you trusting? And yeah, read the books, and also read Meet Your Soul by Alyssa Romeo if you haven't already.
Good one.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. And also, you also share a lot of good stuff on Instagram. You know, you're always like just doing your thing. So thank you so much, Peta. We will have this link for you tomorrow in your inbox, along with a few other goodies. So check it out there. And you can get the human design workshop that we did with Jenna Zoe. It's on the shopalmost30.com if you're interested in that. And yeah, Peta, we love you. We're so grateful, and
So grateful.
looking forward to seeing you soon. I want you to move to the States. That's my goal.
I know, but I love Spain right now. I love Spain.
We can do it. I'm okay with it.
Oh, I don't know. My husband and I just play a funny game every night. He's like, "What's your idea now?" I'm like, "You want to hear it? You want to hear it?"
Thank you so much, Peta. And thank you everyone for joining and just really taking the time for yourself. And I needed
Thanks,
this.
everyone. Thanks for having me, Chica Babe. You'll send me the recording too, huh?
Of course.
Love you,
Of
Chica
course.
Babe.
We'll see you
All
all.
right. All right. See you, everyone. Have a nice night and day. I know it's a lot after someone talks to you that long, truly. So just go and relax.
No shout. Perfect.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
The earth in one being, your body, the queen. I do not show the skin for you. I show myself to know myself. I show for the earth from which I came. My prayers for you to do the same. I do not show the skin for you. I show myself to know myself. I show for the earth from which I came.